Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another wellness session of Reconstructing Minds in partnership with Positive Lifestyle Management and Project Rogers Endeavors. My name is Sean Tario Sane, aka Midnight. Uh, just wanted to come to you this morning with a little something short and sweet on communication and listening. A lot of the issues that exist between men, women, boys, and girls, teenagers, is that there seems to be a lack of communication. In any misunderstanding, there's more than likely a lack of communication. And we need to understand the benefits of being able to communicate effectively. So with that being said, I'm going to be coming from a piece of literature called The Mind Line. The mind line, communication and listening. It says one of the biggest problems that we have as human beings is the problem of not knowing how to communicate with one another. Lack of communication is the primary reason for marriages breaking up, not doing well in school, not being successful with our everyday affairs. In order to be successful, we must learn how to communicate. And that statement is very true. A lot of the issues that we face in life is centered on a lack of communication, marriages, and not only just the lack of communication in marriages, it's a lot of different elements that play a role in marriages today. One of the biggest issues is the love of money. Um, not having money is not a bad thing, but when you love money more than you love the individual, or you marry an individual because of their money, that still represents a lack of communication, because you told the individual that you loved him when really you love what you can benefit from him or her/her. It says communication is defined by Webster dictionary as to give in part, transmit in part information, or exchange information in any way, as by talk, gesture, or writing. It has also been defined as the change of ideas between people. But however, communication is more than that. It is also an exchange of attitudes, feelings. Because if there is no agreement of ideas, many times conflicts develop, and as a result, there is a lack of communication. People have a tendency to turn themselves off from you, and that is very true. Because I've seen it happen so many times in my life where I've said or told the individual something, and they um, got their own private interpretation out of it. It's like an individual who goes to church and listens to the pastor on Sabbath or Sunday morning, and the pastor says something, and the listeners, those who are in the pews, the congregation, some individuals get their private interpretation. And in the world of Christianity, if you ever get a chance to go to school, they call that eisegesis. Eisegesis is a private interpretation of something that is being said, or a private interpretation of biblical principles. And a lot of times, even in the world of communication, we give our private we have our private interpretation of what's being said, and we don't see what's being communicated 360 degrees, which represents our cycle of life. It says this. It says, in order to develop ourselves, our minds, etc., we must begin to learn how to communicate with one another, to talk things over and over with one another. Begin to make every effort to get ideas across without causing undue hardships. It says, many of us would rather hold things in than to let them out and cause ourselves discomfort and frustration. No, this is not the way. Let it out. Once you let it out, you will feel better. the most successful people are those that know how to get their message across. And that is really true, because I've noticed within my own life, when I allow things to continue to fester without saying nothing, and a lot of young kids today, they say, oh, he just gonna let that, you ain't gonna say nothing, you know what I'm saying? And I just have a different mentality when it comes to dealing with certain things, especially when I was younger, because I just wouldn't say nothing. I would let the person feel like they won the conversation or whatever, just to, avoid getting into a confrontation with an individual. And the most important thing that I've learned is, as I've gotten older at 42 years old, is that, communication is very key in any and every situation, because a lack of communication can lead to a very big conflict. Something small could turn into something large, real big, because of the lack of communication. It says, now, in order to be a good communicator, you must also be a good listener. The poor listener many times is a failure. How many times we have not accomplished what we could have just because we did not really listen to instructions. Many students flunk courses because they just don't listen to their instructors, and that's true. Communication means that there's always an open line to where you have to give attention to what's being said. And a lot of times we fail in life because we don't give attention to what's being said, and we lose track of self. It says there are 3 levels of listening. The first level is the non-hearing level, where we don't listen at all. The person can be speaking, but we haven't heard a word that was said. The second is the hearing level. We know what the person is saying and can repeat his words, but we don't understand it. As soon as the conversation is over, we forget it. The third level is the thinking level. On this level, we think about what is said, we analyze, we evaluate. This is the level that all of us should attain. And that is true, because some of us, especially when we're upset about a situation or something being said, we develop that non-hearing level where we just block everything out. And then we have this secondary hearing levels that we only hear what we want to hear, and then that creates another confrontation or conflict. But see, the third level of listening is the thinking level, where we take in everything that is said, we evaluate it for ourselves, we analyze it, and then we move accordingly as to what has been communicated. It says we become good listeners when we begin to weigh what is being said, listening for hidden messages, hidden meanings, and inferences, and are able to ask intelligent questions if we don't fully understand what is being said. Being a good listener is the most important, because most of what we take in to our minds come from our ability to listen well. And that is quite true. In order to be an effective follower, an effective leader, they say you have to be an effective follower. But in order to be a follower, you have to develop good listening skills to be able to propagate what is being said, and use a level of thinking to analyze what is being said, evaluate it, and to be able to carry whatever out that was communicated. It says, when we become good listeners, we will begin to weigh what is being said, listen for hidden meanings and inferences, and are able to ask intelligent questions if we don't fully understand what is being said. Being a good listener is most important, because of what we take into our minds come from our ability to listen well. It says, finally, a good point to consider is that we become better listeners than talkers. For sometimes people who talk all the time get themselves into trouble. Talking only when you have something to say, be a listener. Did you know that many people have nervous breakdowns simply because they do not have anyone to take time to listen to what they have to say? Every parent sometimes, even parents, sometimes will tell their children to shut up when the child needs to communicate with their parent. And as a consequence, will talk to strangers instead of their parents. Being a good listener also makes you a good communicator. And that's very true. That's why there's a lack of communication between the parents and the children today. Because we as parents, we don't take out the time to listen into the younger generation. And when the younger generation um, becomes fed up with the lack of communication between them and the older generation, they go out and do their own things. That's why we have so much senseless violence all over the world, all over the United States, all in the major and big cities. A lack of communication. Being a good listener, and that's one of the things, one of the biggest things that exist within our government. The government wants the people to listen to them, but it's the people that's putting them in their positions of power. They don't want to listen to the people. Look at the Black community. They say that we're the reason why our communities are the way they are. But we're not the ones that's creating the poverty that exists within these communities. In order to effectively divide and conquer a people, you have to create chaos. And they have mastered creating chaos. And a lot of the things that this world is facing now is because of a lack of communication. Everybody got something to say, but don't nobody want to listen. All the kids got something to say to their parents, like the parents ain't never experienced what they're going through. And then you got some of the parents that's behind bars for multiple years, life sentences, and there's simply a lack of communication between the generations, the generational gap. The young people say we're too old. And my challenge is to the young generation, how do you gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding if you don't continue to grow and develop in this life? There are stages and degrees to growth and development. Growth and development is a part of life's process. So we have to understand the importance of being a good listener, a good communicator. I just wanted to drop this nugget on you this morning to let you know that I am with you and not against you. I am open to communicate with anyone and, willing to share and help my brothers and sisters in any kind of way. But this is what it's all about. Communication and listening. In order to communicate effectively, we have to be good listeners. And with that being said, I want you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, tap in to Reconstructing Minds Incorporated in partnership with Positive Lifestyle Management and Project Righteous Endeavors. My name is Shantario, aka Midnight, and this has been another episode of Reconstructing Minds. I hope we can all learn to live with one another, love one another, to continue to grow and develop with one another, communicate effectively. And in that process of communicating effectively, we can be good listeners and love our brothers and sisters. So thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless.